Hi, it's Quadri, and it's been a while that I do this. Today we'll be looking at loan amortization schedule, and the focus is on automating the processes. We've gone past the era of dragging and all of that. So in this scenario, we are going to make it in such a way that everything will be automated. And in this case, we have a fictitious bank and a company as well. And what we intend to purchase on using a credit facility are these items. So we want to these items, not all of them in particular. These are the options we want to choose from. So I've prepared a bank offer, a sample bank offer, and this so that we are going to know how we are going to go about it and not just jump. We can just decide to just do the calculation and all of that, but in a real life scenario, it's so much more than you just having a loan principal and you are calculating the interest. So let me show. So this is what a typical bank offer will look like. The bank name, Palmbridge Commercial Bank. So what are the terms? So let me zoom it. So this, we assume we pick one of those items that we've been offered. One of those items is that is a 100 kVA from Cummins Incorporation, and one item we intend to buy 10 units of it, and 10 units, and one item cost 44 million. So will be for us to purchase 10 units, that's 440 million. But when we look at the facility details, we are going to see all the necessary information. So we have a loan amount of 440 million. The tenure is 36 months from date of first drawdown, and we have an interest rate of 22% per annum, reducing balance. So they've estimated this to be our repayment. So the total repayment is going to be this at the end of 3 years. The interest payable is this. We also have other additional costs, which is management fee. Management fee is the cost of processing, by the bank. So we also have legal fee of 0.5%. So equity contribution. So based on agreement, based on this agreement now, we are going to have a down payment of 10% of the total facility. That is, we at Quadrant Holdings Limited, we are going to be making 10% of this total amount, which is 44 million payable. So for now, this is the main information we'll be needing, and we have other information. Do we have anything here? No. So they've prepared the schedule, but it's not detailed. It only shows the monthly installment and all of that. So what we want to do is to verify. So we want to prepare a loan amortization schedule, an automated one. So the necessary information that we need, this is the particular one that we need, but we are going to do it in such a way that if we want to get for other brands, how much are we going to be getting them from and all of that. So, and the unit and the quantity. So you can decide to put the brand here. The brand. Let me choose a darker this thing. So you have a, so we can, for the brand, let's come here. Let's use our create from selection. Same thing with the market price as well. So I think that's all for now. So we can also make certain things dynamic in such a way that in case there is going to be a change in the agreement, maybe you want to, instead of just having 10% this thing, you can have other options. Let's say to like 50%. You can call it equity contribution percentage. Let me call it weight. So we can name this as well using create from selection. So we've given all this a name. So when we come to our name manager, we have all that. So we want to do it in such a way that we are not highlighting and all of that. So we can come to this, our brand. We can pick from it. Let's use our data validation, or list validation. We use our F3 to bring up F2. What we want here is the brand. So we can always choose. So the value. So we also want to pick quantity. We want to, in case it won't be quantity involved. So I just want to remove the validation. So for the asset value, we can have it as XLOOKUP this in our brand, and what our returner is market price. So we add this to this 44 million. So we can have our quantity, let's have 1 to 10, and just have our quantity 1 to 10. Is something we can just type, but it's quite faster when we use create from selection to create our name, our ranges. So I can decide to do list validation as well again. Using our F2 again, quantity. So we can choose different quantity. So instead of having this, we can multiply the asset value by the quantity. So this is the asset value. Let it be bold. So we have that our equity contribution. Let's have that dynamic as well. The rate. So that means when we are paying 10%, we are making 10%, our loan principal will be how much? It will be 1 minus this. This should give us like 90% times the actual asset value. That means our loan principal will be this. It will be this. But in this case, we have other fees. Let me screenshot that. So I can capture it properly. We have other fee. So we have this. We have management fee, and they said is unapproved facility. Let me make this 10 so we can be on the same page. So the quantity is now up to okay. Let me connection. So this is our loan principal. Our 1%. So we'll be adding other cost. Let me add management fee. Management fee and legal fee. Let me add code that, or I can just do the same thing I've been doing with others. Can just decide to, the management fee can be 0.5%. It can be 1%. Let me just leave it at that. Let me copy the same for, so we can have a management fee of this. We can have 0.5%. Since I think I don't want to have this, I don't want it to be too long. Maybe I should have this rate. Let me have the rate here. And this is our input missing. So this is 1% and our legal fee is this. So we can, let me remove this. We can make this equals to times our management fee will be that times our loan principal. Then our legal fee will be there is no need to lock anything. What we are working on is on a cell, is on one cell. So our legal fee too is going to be on the facility. So that is going to, we are going to revise, these are our principal, our loan listing now. Let's add all this together. So this is what we are going to be working towards now. This is our revised loan, our revised principal, because we've incorporated, it depends on the agreement, but now we've incorporated everything here. So we have 36 months as well, but I can have it different ways. You can start from 6 months, 12 months, 42. So we can have it like this, 12. Okay, let me make it 24. So it should be yearly, but in month 24, 36. So we can have our months this way. So this is going to be the term. So by default, we are making our payments per year. We are having 12 months. That's like the standard and all of that. So we have our rate. We can make that dynamic later. Let me just leave it at 22%. So on a monthly basis, since we want to be making our payments monthly, we can just have our rate directly instead of, that is 22% divided by 12. So the EMI, which is the monthly pay installment that we'll be making, is what we want to calculate now. And in it has in it both the principal and interest. So we'll be making use of a formula called PPMT. So what's our rate? You don't have to divide it again by this thing. So what's the period? The period we choose is 24 months. wait, I'm coming. Let me comment this. So how to make this such a way that you can always know that it's a month. So we have that. Our PV is the loan amount. So let's put that in negative. So we are going to be making this amount of money on a monthly basis. We are going to be paying this. That's if we are doing 24 months, that's 2 years, we'll be paying that. That's inclusive of, we are going to be paying this monthly. But if we are doing 36 months, we'll be paying this amount, 15.3 million. So what's the start date? Let's assume, let's give it, should we give it 1st of December, 1st of March? Let's give it 1st of March. 1st March 2026. So it can be the end of the month, or we can make it the exact date, but let's make it the end of month. No, I mean the end of month end date is going to be the number of the tenor. So it's going to be that. So by the end of 2029 it should be. So what we want to do, let's come to the period. You can decide to have let me move this one. I want to add another one. So I want to have period here. Like just want to have period 1 or something like that. So you can decide to have our period, which is month. We are going to be making use of the sequence function. Instead of typing the whole of 1 to 3, we won't be needing that. This is currently in date format. Can do Control Shift 1, Control Shift. I want to bring it back to general. So how about the month, the payment period now? The payment period, I'm going to change. We are going to be making use of sequence function again. Rows is just the date between these. There is no need for that. It's 36 months. What's the start? This is the start. That's to shift 3. Oh, I made a mistake. It should be the end of month. So this is the start date. Then we can now have our sequence function. Sequence of 36 starting one sequence of 36 starting when is what I'm doing is not right. So I want to see this is the start date. Sequence of 36. I think it's this simple. It should not be, yeah. So these are the payment dates. So what's going to be our opening balance? Our opening balance is going to be the loan principal, the revised one. Our EMI is going to be this. So we have to repeat it for the whole of 36, the whole of the period. So for us to do that, you might decide to, for us to do that, we want to do something which is making use of, we have sequence of 36, but you remember that anything raised to power, what we intend to do is to get one all-rounder for the whole 36 months. So that I can repeat that. So you remember that anything exponent of 0, anything raised to power 0 is 1. So we can have that. Then we can multiply that with that EMI. So we have this as our monthly installment. So out of this now, what is going to be our interest? Our interest is going to be this opening balance times this our reducing monthly rate. It's as simple as that. So our principal is going to be this minus this. I don't want those extra zeros. So this is going to be our principal. What is going to be our closing balance? Our closing balance is going to be this, our opening balance minus principal, because it's only principal that is going to reduce our. So we'll be having our closing balance here again. So let's have this. So this is going to be how our is going to be working this way. But this is not automated in any sense, because we still have to drag in case we want to do 12 months. You see, we will now be having all this. Though it might seem this thing, it might seem, but it's still not automated away, because we still have to drag something in case we are doing more than 36 months. That's the challenge. In case we are doing like 60 months, we have to drag all this. We have to drag all this. So that's not what we intend to achieve. That's not what we intend to achieve. But before then, let's calculate what's our interest here. What's the interest? So our principal, see, we'll be paying this. We are doing 60 months. The higher the tenure, the higher the interest. But we want it, we want, what I intend to do is not to have all this. I don't intend to have any kind of dragging and all of that. So we can work on this all over again. Instead of having this, we are going to be making use of some other functions. So we have this. So what we are going to be doing, we also have another function called IPMT. Without this EMI, we can as well get our IPMT independent of which is going to be we don't have to refer to this column. So let's get down to that. So what this IMT, how it works is that it's going to get for that particular period. So it's for which period you want to find. So IPMT, let me come over again. This IPMT, it only works with one particular period. Let me assume we are doing one now. Then what's the present value? What's the PV? Where is it again? This. Is there anything? Oh, number of period is not there. Number of period is 36 months. So that's it. You can have it in negative. You can decide to have it in negative or positive. So, but let's leave it in positive. So for us to do that, we can just let our PV, can decide to make our PV negative. So instead of doing for 1 month and all of that, see, because we did not log those cells, but we don't even need to adjust anything. So instead of hard coding 1 for period 1, you can as well just say we want for the whole period by using the sequence of the month involved. What's the number of months? 60 months. You see, it's going to get for the whole month. What's our principal? So we can decide to just have this minus this. However we want it. We can decide to have it this way, or we should make use of the PPMT function itself. It's still going to give us the same thing. Let's try that PPMT here to see if we are going to arrive at the same thing. So this time we'll be using sequence. Instead of getting for a particular month, we'll be getting for the, so per number of period, still this. What's the PV minus this? So you see we are still having the same value. So it depends, but I think it's okay if I just say this EMI minus interest. It's quite understand. So how do we get our closing balance? Our closing balance without not referring to opening balance. How do we get that? So what we are going to do is to refer to this. So we are going to be making use of a sequence function no, a scan function to get a cumulative principal that will be paying every month. So what we want to achieve is that, let's say our principal is, our loan amount is 100,000, and we are paying like, let's say we paid 45,000 the first month. We pay 20. Okay. Let me just assume we have 50,000. But the thing is, principal will be increasing, and our interest will be reducing. But this is not how it's going to be. But this, what I want to show is that, okay, you see, we're having 100 like this. So what I intend to do is that this, for the first situation, you'll be having something like 100 minus this. Okay. 100 minus that. So you'll still be having 100 minus sum of this. So 100 minus sum of this. So that's the kind of scenario I want to bring. So what can do that is for us to do so I want to do a cumulative, so that I want to do it in such a way that I don't have to refer to this opening balance right here. So we'll be making use of scan function. Scan function can make us automate a cumulative. We want to do a cumulative addition, like cumulative principal. So what's the initial value? Initial value is 0. What's the array? The array is this principal. So we are going to introduce, where's I'm coming. Okay, let me use lambda. Lambda. Let me represent the initial one with x and the next one with y. So what we want is just x plus y, and that's all. So we'll be having this. So you see, the cumulative of this is 7532, something like. So till the end, we'll be having this. So what I now want to do is just to say this minus this is going to give us, you see, it's going to give us this. But here we don't want to, I can decide not to even do, I can decide to just say VSTACK of this. I can just leave it there, or of this, and I will represent the column, the whole of this. But I have to take off this one. I will introduce a drop function. What drop is to do is to drop a column or a row, but in this case I want to drop a row. If I want to drop a row, I can call it, if I want to drop row 1, I'm going to put row 1. But in this case I want to drop the last row, so I will be using -1 to drop the last row. So now we have an automated one. No matter the period, everything is now automated. So what I will have to do is to ensure that we are having the same. Okay, let me just copy this format for the whole this thing, just to retain the formatting. So I think that's that. So we can also introduce conditional formatting. So we can introduce conditional formatting. How that is going to work is that for us to make sure that our using of border is automated. So instead of doing, you see, if we have a border like this and this decreases, we may decide to want to clean it. That's not what we want to do. That's not what we want to achieve. So let's go to conditional formatting. We are going to be making use of use a formula. What we intend to do is that at any point, let me come here, at any point where, but we are going to ensure that is a mixed reference. That column, that row is not going to be locked. Let me just type 19 there. It's not, as long as this thing is not equals to blank, then we are going to format it this way. Let's use border. Do you want to okay? You can decide to change the color of the border, something like this. So let's see how that is showing. So you see, that is going to be automatic. Let's reduce it to something around 6 months. You see, our border is working fine. Let's change the formatting. Wait. I want to do some other thing again. So I want to let it have a feel of like something like this. Okay, I think that is fine. So we can also ensure that the current period, we want to make sure that we want to highlight that. That is also possible. But how do we go about that? Let's see, what's the current period? We are currently in March 2026. That's not going to show. So I can decide to March 2026. Okay. So what I want to do is that, let's say the current period is let me decide that the current period, let's say the current period is June. Is this particular one. So you can decide to say, let's go over, let me make it go down there. Or instead of doing it that way, let me go over it again. So we can go to formatting again, conditional formatting again. Say new rule. We are still going to make use of formula. Where is formula? So we can just say at any point where this is equals to this, then we want to paint it, we want to fill it red. Then our font can be in white, so it can be visible. let's see. Okay, you see, that's what I'm talking about. So let's say why I'm not doing mash, you could have just said, oh, it's equals to today, something like that, and we now do the EO month and something like that. We can decide to do, let's say this. Why the okay, this is not working because that's not the end of month of for that one. So it's so the current period, that period can just decide to, let me say 30th December 2028 is the current period. So that's how that one works. Normally I would have decided to just use the today's function. I think that's all. Right, most time. So we can have something here, a small table that is going to show the total interest and the principal, which is going to okay, let me have something like total interest. The principal will still remain the principal, no doubt. So you can have this. So hashtag this because it's a dynamic so all this, you can say everything is dynamic. But the issue now is we may be having something different from what the bank is having. Maybe there are certain things they are, maybe the time of the way they want to remove the money is, maybe we are, some of this management fee or legal fee payable before this disbursement. Okay, so this term, this particular legal fee now, that means is before the disbursement. That means it's not going to be part of the loan. We'll be paying it. But let's assume that means it should be part of the whatever we are paying. Should be part of the equity contribution then. No, that is not part of equity contribution. But that means I should take whatever we are having here. Should not be part of this our listing. We will assume that we are making that payment since it is upfront. We will only be adding, we will only add this management fee. Let me just, we'll be adding our management fee alone. So everything depends on the agreement. So let me choose the comments again. 36 months. Equity contribution 10%. So it seems the bank is charging us more than they should. What did they say the interest payable is? The interest payable is from their own is 164, and from our calculation is 149. That means they are overcharging us, and that's one of the reasons why we have to do our calculation, the verification on our own. And if there's anything that they are doing that we are doing differently, then they will communicate it to us that, oh, they are deducting this amount before this. So those are some of the things we need to know. I think that is all. But do we have to do this separately? Yeah, I feel like, but do we have the same thing? What's the legal fee in the agreement? 0.5% flat. So before the deducted upfront. So since it seems most these two will not be, let me not add this. We'll still be paying less. Okay, let me now add this. Yes. But the bottom line is to automate this process. All those other costs, you might have these agreements, then you might have a reason to refer back to our bank to get the proper understanding on how they want to charge those other costs. But I feel like the automation processes and every other thing is clear. So as long as we are choosing, we can always know which is better to go for. Which is better to go for. If we are buying 3 items and we want to pay in this particular one, we are paying in 36 months, we'll be making total payment of 129. But if we are doing 24 months, we'll be paying lesser. So the higher the tenure, the higher the interest. Alright, I think that's all. That's all. 6 months, 5 months, everything it will be dynamic. Thank you.